Hello there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to the Enchanted Woods Hop release for Trinity Stamps. The design team today is sharing with you lots of creative ideas with this brand new release. And of course, as part of the hop, there is a giveaway. So check out the rules for that in the description box below. For today's card, I'm starting with this super cool new stencil set. It's called Terrific Terrazio. Now, terrazio is a kind of material used to create flooring or countertops. It's made with broken pieces of marble inset into a type of concrete. So once you see this all put together, this background, you're gonna maybe recognize it. So I am starting with stencil A and using my lightest color of green. This is Bamboo, I believe, from Altenew. I am going to stencil this on, like I said, stencil A, which is the stencil with the least amount of openings. This stencil measures 9 inches by 6 inches, and the cardstock I used is 8.5 by 5.5. So I just kind of tried to center it on the stencil there. And you can see what that looks like with one layer. Next, I am going to try to center this again and do layer B. Now, it doesn't matter if you get this exactly lined up. The openings don't actually overlap each other, but even if they got close or touched, it's not that big of a deal. It's a very random pattern, which makes this stencil set actually very easy to line up. So next I'm using Moss ink, which is just a darker shade of green than the Bamboo ink. So now you can see what this looks like with 2 layers, both green. It's really a fun stencil. I'm loving it, and it's so different than anything I already own. So now I'm adding layer C and Teal Cave ink. Now this stencil has the most openings, so if you only wanted to use 1 layer of the stencil, this is a really good choice out of the 3 to do that. So here you can see what it looks like with all 3 layers, and maybe you're starting to see that kind of flooring or countertop look. Maybe you had this flooring in your elementary school. I feel like I did. Like, I really recognize it. But the most famous place that they have terrazio is the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Those stars are done with terrazio, the black part and the white part. All right, I added some sparkle to my background, just something really subtle, but it's going to look great with the fairies and things I put on. So next, I pulled out a piece of mixed media paper from Trinity Stamps. I'm going to tape this down to my glass mat because I'm going to do a little watercolor fun. I'm spritzing it with water, and I'm going to use the same exact ink pads I used for my stenciled background to create this mixed media panel. So I smooshed it down on my glass mat. I'm spritzing that with water, and then I'm bringing in a large paintbrush. I got that wet, and I'm just going to dab the color on randomly. I'm making a completely random background, adding more water where I need, and I'm not trying to make anything fancy. It's just a background that I'm going to actually stamp on and die cut from. So after I did the Bamboo ink, I went in, did the same exact thing with the Moss ink, and of course then with the Teal ink. So I've got all 3 of the colors used in my background, and I just think this is so much fun to make my own backgrounds or panels that I can use to die cut from. But if that's not your thing, like, make your own leaves with maybe patterned paper, or maybe you're just really love coloring and you could color in your leaves that I'm going to add on. You'll see the cool stamps that I'm using on this background in just a second. But you see there, I sprinkled on some regular table salt. That's going to absorb a lot of the ink puddles, and it kind of gives it this oxidized look. It absorbs some of the paint. You can see the salt has changed colors. So I just love adding those extra layers. And speaking of extra layers, I'm going to spritz this with some Rustic Wilderness Distress Oxide ink for some splatter on there that's really dark. It's going to dry back a little lighter, as you see here. Now it's time to stamp it. This is the Fern-tastic Stamp set. Look at these ferns. They're so cool. I'm going to emboss them, so I treated my paper with some anti-static powder, and then I arranged them on my panel. You can see it takes up almost all the paper, but I did have room to stamp the smallest one a second time, which I did. But I am using VersaFine Onyx Black ink to stamp that down. I actually stamped it twice because I wanted to make sure I had really good ink coverage. And then I will sprinkle on some clear embossing powder, and it's going to give that just a little bit of a raised up shiny edge that's going to be so gorgeous for this card. So now it's time to melt that powder. I've got my heat tool and I just melt that till the powder turns shiny, and then I've got my ferns ready to be die cut. So I'm using the coordinating die set and taping them in place. The paper's a little bit warped, so I want to make sure those aren't going to scoot around. And there you can see, oh my gosh, so cool. Look at these leaves. They're gorgeous. I love this stamp set. I think it could go with so many of the things that I already have. So back to the background, I am going to ink up the sides and the bottom. I just wanted to soften this out and give it more depth. Like it kind of looks like a forest scene, and it just blends in better with the ferns that I'm going to put over the top. So I started out with the moss or the bamboo ink, and I came in pretty far on my paper. Then I brought back the moss ink, and this time when I'm adding the ink, I'm not going as far in, just focusing more on the edge to give it a real kind of ombre or fade into the white type of look. I added my ferns on with some foam squares and created a little border on those sides, and I'm loving how this is coming together. Here is the Trio Silhouette Fairy die set, also brand new in this collection. I'm going to die cut mine from some black glitter cardstock. You can see all the fun detail on these fairies. They're so pretty. I think they're a really, again, fun thing to add to your collection that's going to go with things you already have. So I added my fairy, and next it's time to bring out my sentiment set. This is the brand new Scripty Mother's Day die set. It has Happy Mother's Day and also this word mom that I am doing for my card. I cut this from some teal cardstock, glued it onto some vellum, and then this supporting sentiment is from the Ferntastic set, and it says, "I'm your biggest fern." I'm going to emboss that with white powder on that same teal paper that I used to die cut the word mom, and just embossing that with white so it stands up off of that paper very nicely. There is a coordinating die for this that's going to bubble cut all the way around that. To help these stand up off my card, I die cut the word mom 3 more times, and I use the die for that sentiment and die cut it 3 more times. This is going to help it be raised up off the paper without having to die or cut tiny little pieces of foam. So I like doing this. It makes it nice and sturdy and it gives it some lift. So now as I am arranging my sentiment on my card, I realized I've got room on that left-hand side. I could add a second fairy. And I just think they're really cute. It would help the card be more balanced, right? So I went ahead and die cut a second fairy from the same black glitter cardstock and added it there. I used a combination of foam squares and glue to hold those down. And then it's time to embellish. I have some green gemstones, rhinestones, just one of the many colors of rhinestones that Trinity offers. So I'm going to link these below. When you go over and check out the new release, be sure to check out the embellishments because wow, the collection that they have at Trinity is amazing. I trimmed off the ferns that were hanging off the edge of the card and mounted it onto a teal card base to complete the card. I hope that you enjoyed this look at some of the brand new products from Trinity. Remember, this hop is also a giveaway, so hop along with us. You'll find the link to the next stop in the description box below. Subscribe, comment, and like as you go to be entered into our drawing for one of 2 $25 gift cards to Trinity Stamps. I will see you all again very soon on the next video. Happy stamping! Bye!